Happy Thanksgiving. Welcome to FRC Media News for Thursday, November 24th, 2016. I'm Keith Tebow. On this week's show, Mayor Correa gives us an update on the City Pier project. The president of the Fall River Chamber of Commerce talks education. And we give you an opportunity to donate food and clothing items for needy families this holiday season. This week, we're going to start the show a little differently. Will Richmond, digital news editor at the Herald News, is on vacation. And instead of talking the headlines of the week, we'd like to focus on a series of articles that was in the paper this past Sunday, looking at the City of Fall River's employee pension system. Joining us today is the author of those articles, Herald News staff reporter Michael Holtzman. Michael, how are you? Welcome.
Doing great. Good to talk with you, Keith.
Thank you. You know, Michael, a lot has been in the news about government pensions. We heard a lot about what was happening in Rhode Island, if you've watched any of the Providence news stations, and also here in Massachusetts, government pensions are in the forefront. Let me ask you, before we get into some of the details of Fall River's situation, what interested you about doing the series of articles about the Fall River pension system?
Well, I've always thought that it was a complicated subject, that people needed to know more about it, including myself. And I thought that there are situations where people are on the city council or on the school committee, they run for mayor, their stipend salary within the retirement system changes drastically, and how does that all come out? You know, what are the numbers with that? And then, of course, there was the Mike Coogan situation, where we saw somebody promoted dramatically over other people who were of higher rank, who increased, basically doubled his salary, and lasted in that position for barely 2 weeks. And then after that happened and he retired, I crunched some of the numbers as to what would have been the difference if he had been a fire lieutenant or had been the fire chief and lived a normal kind of life expectancy.
Right.
How much money are we talking about?
Right.
And the amount of money was like $2 million.
Yeah, it was very significant. Yeah.
Very significant. And I also thought, you know, there's a lot of skepticism among people about that people work and have kind of a gravy train in retirement. And I think a lot of that is not necessarily correct. And I thought, let's talk to some of the people who are in charge and who can put it in perspective and give us some good examples.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that a little bit, but you know, a lot of people watching this, Michael, work in the private sector, and you know, it was general practice that even private sector businesses used to offer pensions to their employees, but now that isn't the case. A lot of times there's a 401k program where both the employee and in some cases some of the businesses will match a part of that 401k contribution to help people in their retirement. People would have Social Security, of course, when they retired. But the pensions that we hear about most of all still exist in cities, towns, and even here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, state employees still enjoy this pension system, if you will. Let's talk a little bit about Fall River's pension system. And a lot in the news has been made about these pension systems being underfunded on the part of either the state or, in this case, the City of Fall River, where employees are contributing to their pension, but also the city is supposed to kick in money as well to make sure that the pension system, the pool of money from which all retirees will be getting their pensions, are fully funded. And Fall River, for a long period of time, has not fully funded its end of the bargain in terms of the pensions, correct?
And nor was it required to.
Correct.
And so it really, and even then in 1988, when cities and when retirement boards were required to fund it, there was no teeth in terms of enforcement, no accountability, and so what they like to use as a was a pay-as-you-go, that the employees were required to put in a percentage of their salary, a percentage that has increased over the years and has increased with pension reform. And now there's a lot more accountability. There are also actuarial guidelines that are set up by the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission, which is called PERIC, which was formed in 1996, so that the amounts that retirement boards are required to put in isn't just some arbitrary number.
Right.
That it's based upon good actuarial statistics, and PERIC has its figures updated and recalculated every 2 years, I believe.
Right. Now, in terms of the amount of money that the city has to pay into the system, the best case scenario would be that whatever the city is obligated to put in every year, they would have put in every year and be 100% funded. But the city of Fall River currently is well below that, even less than half of what would be considered full funding. Go through briefly the history of how the city has not, I guess, paid forth its obligation.
Well, one of the things that's interesting that I didn't mention in my stories that ran Sunday and Monday was that going back after PERIC, when the requirement came in 1988, and now they expect retirement boards to be fully funded by the year 2040, and their goal is to be fully funded by the year 2035. This chart that I look at back before that requirement and goal came into being, Fall River was actually below 40% at that time, and it steadily went up through the 90s and reached a high of close to 80% funding around 2001.
Oh, really?
And it's been more in a lower range for about the last 6 or 7 years, as the city has not kept up with its time requirements and its funding requirements, and there has not been a way to really make the city do that.
Right.
And I mentioned, Bob Chipper Camara, the retired firefighter and district fire chief, that he brought that to the attention of the city council a couple years ago when he was elected to the retirement board, and basically brought them a study that showed that over a 10-year period that New Bedford had funded $89 million more than Fall River had, and that also was part of the study that by being just 3 months behind in payments resulted in losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, because that's money that is not available to be invested in the retirement system.
Right.
And the money that employers and employees invest into the system is going to be invested. They generally they showed that those investments over the period of 1985 through 2015 brought in 8.3%, and has generally been in the 7.75% to 8% range. So if you're not funding that, you're losing out on that. You never make it back.
Right.
And those funds were used often to fund budgets instead of to fund pensions that the actuarial analysis will tell you you're going to need in the future, whether it's 10 years or 20 years or whatever, however many years they project for your employees.
Right. Now, I know a lot has been made. A lot of people will see those that are in office and those who work for a city or a state government looking that these people will get pensions, and they a lot of the reaction is, well, these people are fat cats. They're going to be benefiting from this off the backs of taxpayers going forward. You had the opportunity to speak to three people that are well known throughout the city. Former Mayor Bob Correa, who is currently receiving a pension, and two other individuals, former mayoral candidates, Kathy Ann Viveros and David Sullivan, about their views of the pension system. Tell us briefly what that talk was about and how they responded to how they view their pensions.
Well, I started with the premise that they all ran for mayor. They all were well known. In fact, they ran against each other in different races, as I outlined. And I think that what came through from all three was that it's important to take a look at what each individual situation is. And Bob Correa, he has worked in city and state service for 48 years in various capacities, and his salary as mayor did go up quite a bit as mayor compared with the state representative, as did Dave Sullivan's. And I think that you have to look also is what kind of experience has the person put in. That's what they both emphasized. Is there many years of experience? It was a little bit different than Kathy Viveras' situation.
Right.
To have earned what they feel that they're entitled to have earned the better position.
Right.
In the case of running for mayor, of course, it's an elected position. In the case of Dave being the director of the Housing Authority, he was an appointed position by Will Flanagan, and he explained about the years that he put in trying to build up his experience and commitment to what he was doing.
Right.
And but you can see the numbers don't lie.
Right.
They say what happens when you make another $40,000 or $50,000 in your salary. And one of the things that interested me as I was covering Fall River City government was that it's pretty typical for somebody who's a city councilor to run for mayor. Case of Jaisal Correa, he was on the city council for one term.
Right.
After coming in 10th in the initial election and moving into that position.
Right.
You have people on the city council now who have been on there for 15, 20 years on the city council, who people have said might run for mayor. And in Kathy's case, 8 of her almost 11 years that she's vested in the retirement system were as a city councilor making a $16,000 stipend, and now her salary is about $121,000 as city administrator.
Right.
But when you look at how much she'd be entitled to if she retired, if she reached retirement age and full retirement age, which for people after pension reform in 2012 would be age 67 in her category.
Right.
However, she joined the system as did Dave and Bob, prior to that, when it was age 65 for all three of them.
Right.
So she would receive 26% of her salary. Some people say, well, it's almost $30,000. That's not a bad retirement.
Right.
But if you have the ability to earn $120,000, it's quite a bit lower.
Right, absolutely.
And one other point, Keith, if I may,
quickly,
is that the current mayor makes $119,598. So the mayor's salary is very close and slightly less than what the city administrator and the Housing Authority executive director make. But they're all very comparable.
Right. Well, Michael, we could talk about this for a lot longer, and maybe we will. Maybe we'll get you on to talk about this issue a little bit later. But I want to thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your holiday. We'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Have a great Thanksgiving, you and your family. Good to talk with you, Keith. Thank you.
We'll have more FRC Media news right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Fall River Career Center. Marketing Specialist, John Hetzler and Associates, located at 226 South Main Street, is in need of a part-time marketing specialist to manage marketing functions for the company by coordinating promotional events and lead media projects with outside ad agencies. Job number 815-5747. Banquet and wait staff. McGovern's Restaurant, located at 310 Shove Street, is seeking banquet and wait staff to serve meals and drinks to patrons of the restaurant. Must have excellent customer service skills with a professional work ethic. Job number 816-9115. Weight Management Nurse Practitioner. Primacare, located at 277 Pleasant Street, is in need of a full-time weight management nurse practitioner to provide customized one-on-one weight management programs for their patients. Job number 817-0060. The Fall River Public School System is looking to fulfill the following positions. Administrative Intern, job number 816-4310. Math Teacher, job number 816-1160. Special Needs Teacher, job number 816-4307. School Psychologist, job number 816-4302. Science Teacher, job number 816-1163. First Baptist Church of Fall River, located at 228 North Main Street, is in need of a children's Christian education teacher for their Sunday school program. Teaching experience required and must be available Sunday mornings. To apply, contact the church office at 508-672-5381. For more information on these or other positions, visit FRCmedianews.org or call the Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. The City of Fall River announced last week the receipt of a state grant to make improvements to the city pier. Mayor Jesus Correa tells FRC Media News the award is a direct result of building strong relationships with state officials.
The reason we got this done is because we've built a great relationship with the Baker-Polito administration. 114 cities and towns applied for MassWorks grants. Only 34 got a MassWorks grant, Fall River being one of those. So we were able to secure $1.6 million to begin the catalyst of the city pier. That's literally been vacant my entire life. So I think in the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see a fully done project, which would include a marina, possibly a ferry, a restaurant, some other space down there as well. You'll also see, this is pretty exciting, you'll also see kind of like a, I don't know if it'll be like a boardwalk or concrete all the way around the perimeter of the city pier to continue the boardwalk down there. So that's going to be very exciting. So this money is very important for us to make this project happen. It's a site that needs utility. It's a site that needs strengthened seawalls and obviously the steel pilings for the marina as well.
The city pier construction project got underway this week with the repaving of Duval Street. With the official beginning of the holiday shopping season, Mayor Correa is urging residents to shop locally, reminding motorists that parking in downtown is not a problem, especially on certain days.
Well, if you're shopping on weekends, you shouldn't have an issue because there's no fee, of course, on the weekends. We do have 2 garages. I think people forget that we do have 2 garages. One is on Pearl Street, and the other is right here behind City Hall and behind the courthouse. So those will be available to you. And then there's different parts of the city too that you want to shop in as well. East Main Street, Pleasant Street. There's a lot of different parts of the city that you're going to want to stop in and grab some different things and grab some holiday treats too.
The Greater Fall River Area Chamber of Commerce and Industry formed an education campaign called Ed Up. Made up of about 30 city nonprofit and business representatives, meetings have been taking place for the last 5 years. At their latest meeting this week, Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Rob Mellion says that Bay Coast Bank and other businesses have kicked in $100,000 to start a massive marketing campaign to promote the importance of education in the city.
The purpose of the EdUp campaign is to help change the way that people living in the region think about education and particularly educational attainment, how they aspire to being something better. And everybody is a stakeholder in this EdUp campaign. So we're excited. We're going to work with the Fall River City Schools, and we're going to actually work with the students at Durfee in particular who are going to help us make a commercial that we want to put on a major network that will play throughout this area here as part of the campaign. You will see billboards, you will see radio ads, you will see high visibility in the Herald News. We are going to go very strong with the EdUp campaign in 2017. And this is all part of our effort that was initiated about 6 years ago, and it began due to the fight for level services funding to the area's schools. And in having that fight 6 years ago, we realized that we needed to create a year-round effort towards helping people understand why it was so important to support local education.
The presidential election may be history, but it lived on a bit longer for the city of Fall River. Fall River was one of 66 communities randomly chosen to conduct a post-election audit by the Secretary of State's office. City Board of Elections Chairperson Elizabeth Camara explains what took place.
You tally everything on your sheets, what each candidate got, any blanks or overvotes, any write-ins. So, but everything went smoothly, so I didn't see any issue with it. So you just do what you have to do, and it's fine.
And New Bedford had a couple more, huh?
Yes, from what I understand, we did receive a list. They emailed the list of the communities, and I noticed that they were picked 3 precincts. So they had more to do than we did, but just one, it was simple enough.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
So this is Bentley. Bentley's an 8-year-old Yorkshire Terrier mix. As you can see, he's a bit of a snuggle bug. Sort of just kind of makes his way up on top of you. He can be a little bit skittish, as we just saw a moment ago. He was hiding under our friend here. Because he's 8, he also qualifies for our Senior for Senior program. So if you're 55 or older, he'd just be $25. He's a nice little guy, as you can see. Really cuddly. Oh, what's this? Aren't you nice? He's less the super playful and more the I just want to kind of cuddle with you. So if that's something that interests you, I would definitely come down and give him a look-see.
Meet Caramello. She was an owner surrender. She's about 6 or 7 years old. And the reason she's so small probably is because she was a breeder. I find her to be a very pleasant cat, a very quiet cat. She has other cats in her world and she's okay with that, but she tends to keep to herself. But she is a very striking cat. She's what we call a red patch tabby. Come and see her at Forever Paws Animal Shelter. We're located on 300 Linwood Street in Fall River. We're open 11 to 4 every day but Wednesday, and that includes Sunday.
Now that the holiday season is upon us, some nonprofits in Fall River are gearing up to help needy families with food and clothing items. The Salvation Army on Bedford Street just finished supplying food for families who applied for the Thanksgiving baskets, and now Major Kim Belanger says it's time to move on to help those same families with Christmas items.
Actually, the participants who have come to sign up for Thanksgiving, they're also signed up for our Christmas program as well. So we have 781 Christmas baskets to assemble as well. And we have a warm clothing program from children from 0 to 12. From 0 to 5, they'll get an outfit, and from 6 to 12, they'll get a coat.
Clothing donations can be made at the Salvation Army at 52 Bedford Street during regular business hours. That's it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can watch us Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. and we're online 24/7 at frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving weekend, and we'll see you next week.